Hello world, I'm comedian Tyson and this is We on the Laughs. Well, we've all had to get our starts somewhere. Television and film has seen many performers travel many different roads on their way to becoming superstars. For some talented men and women, that first mile to stardom begins with their unique form of humor on display nightly in front of audiences as stand-up comedians. Today, we're going to focus on 10 of the best stand-up comedians who would go on to eventually become legendary actors and directors, as We on the Laughs presents Top 10 Actors/Directors who started off as stand-up comedians. This list will mainly be focusing on people who started their entertainment career as stand-up comedians, only to make the complete transition into acting and directing. Comedians who had notable careers, but also maintained a strong presence in the world of comedy, such as Amy Schumer and Kevin Hart, will be excluded from this list. Eddie Murphy will also be exempt from this list, as it has been strongly rumored that he recently signed a deal with Netflix for 2 new comedy specials coming in 2021. Now, before we get started with our list, here are some comedians turned actors or directors that deserve some honorable mentions. Emma Thompson, Ron Perlman, Ed Helms, and Michael Keaton. Now let's get started with our list. Coming in at number 10 is a woman who made a living off having the world see things from her point of view. Number 10, Whoopi Goldberg. A career spanning over 35 years, Whoopi Goldberg is recognized as one of the pioneers for African American women in film. But before she was a unique Hollywood starlet, Goldberg was able to break down doors for women of color as a stand-up comedian. In 1974, at the age of 20, Whoopi moved to San Francisco, California in search of new beginnings. She became active in community theater as well as establishing a dominant presence as an ethnic female comedian. Eventually, she moved back to New York and developed a popular one-woman Broadway show that would become the basis for her famous HBO comedy special entitled Whoopi Goldberg Direct from Broadway, winning a Grammy Award for Best Comedy Album in 1985. Her performance caught the eye of director Steven Spielberg, who would cast her in the lead female role of Celie in his next film, The Color Purple. Released in late 1985, Whoopi's debut role was a commercial success, earning 11 Academy Award nominations, including Best Actress nomination for Goldberg. Due to the success of her breakout role, Whoopi became a very busy Hollywood star, filming 7 films between 1985 and 1988, highlighted by Jumping Jack Flash in 1986. As the 1980s concluded, she hosted numerous HBO comedy specials for comic relief with fellow comedians Robin Williams and Billy Crystal. But that was the last bit of stand-up comedy that Whoopi would manage to be involved in. Leaving stand-up behind, Goldberg would go on to star in numerous high-profile films throughout the 1990s, and is currently one of the queens of daytime television as co-host of the popular talk show The View. Number 9, Simon Pegg. He's a breakout British movie star of the 2000s. Before Hollywood came calling with blockbuster films, zombie followings, and an insane body transformation, Simon Pegg was destined for a great career in stand-up comedy. One of the busiest stars on both sides of the pond, Pegg has displayed his stand-up comedy roots often on the big screen to gain massive success in his films. Pegg started performing stand-up comedy in the early 90s while attending college at the University of Bristol, where he graduated with a bachelor's degree in drama. Looking for more shows and more exposure, Simon would move to London in 1993. Shortly after moving to London, Pegg made a few stand-up appearances on the BBC and became a regular on the sketch comedy series 6 Pairs of Pants. He continued to work on various comedy series up until 1999 when Spaced, a sitcom he co-wrote and co-starred with fellow comedian Jessica Stevens, aired on the BBC. The success of the show led to a small but meaningful role for Pegg in the HBO miniseries Band of Brothers, along with other roles in feature films to end the 1990s. Simon would team up with 6 Pair of Pants castmate Edgar Wright to co-wrote the screenplay for the romantic zombie comedy film Shaun of the Dead in 2004. Shaun of the Dead became a global phenomenon, grossing $30 million worldwide against a budget of $6.1 million, and received 2 nominations at the British Academy Film Awards. Picked up as one of the top 25 best horror films of all time by Time magazine, ironically, the success of Shaun of the Dead killed any ounce of Simon's promising stand-up career as he became a breakout comedic actor. Pegg is one of the few performers to have achieved the holy grail of nerddom, playing popular supporting characters in Doctor Who, Star Trek, and Star Wars: The Force Awakens. He currently stars as Benji Dunn in the Mission Impossible film series. Number 8, Donald Glover. When you're a jack of all trades, you'll always leave somewhere with someone wanting more. Donald Glover began performing stand-up comedy after entering college in the early 2000s. While attending NYU, he would regularly perform on Late Night with Conan O'Brien and was once named one of Variety's 10 comics to watch. Still living in his NYU dorm room, Glover was hired by SNL great Tina Fey to join the writing staff of NBC's 30 Rock. During his time there, the show won 2 Emmy Awards and a Writers Guild Award for Best Comedy. In 2009, Donald would land his first major acting role as Troy Barnes on NBC's Community. He would also perform an iconic 30-minute stand-up special as part of Comedy Central Presents. In 2012, Glover released his only hour-long stand-up special entitled Weirdo for Comedy Central and Netflix. He would leave Community after 4 seasons to focus on his music career, along with a new show that he would be developing for FX. As his alter ego Childish Gambino, musically, he would become one of the biggest stars on the planet, earning 4 top 10 albums and 5 Grammy Awards. His FX show Atlanta would become a cultural phenomenon as Glover became the first African American to ever win an Emmy for comedic directing. Now a marquee name at the box office, Donald could have easily been regarded as one of the funniest comics of his generation. But when you're a man of many talents, newfound success is always around the corner. Throughout the years, Glover has received many offers by networks to return to stand-up, but has turned down all offers. Number 7, Mel Brooks. Known as arguably the greatest comedic director of all time, Mel Brooks has 3 films ranked on the American Film Institute's top 100 comedy films of the past 100 years, with all of those films proudly in the top 15. A World War II veteran, Mel became a stand-up comedian after a comic at a nightclub he worked at became too sick to perform, causing him to fill in. He was a hit with audiences, but Brooks found more rewarding work behind the scenes, becoming a comedy writer for television. In 1950, he was part of a revolutionary writing staff on Sid Caesar's famous variety comedy series, Your Show of Shows. In 1960, Brooks moved from New York to Hollywood and began performing the 2,000-Year-Old Man act on The Steve Allen Show. His performance led to the release of the comedy album 2,000 Years with Carl Reiner, selling over 1 million copies in 1961. By the late 1960s, Brooks had evolved from stand-up comedy to becoming a scriptwriter and a film director. He made his first feature film in 1967 entitled The Producers and would go on to win an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. 7 years later, Brooks would release Blazing Saddles, becoming the second highest grossing film of 1974 with $119 million worldwide. The film would be nominated for 3 Academy Awards and won the Writers Guild Award for Best Comedy Written Directly for the Screen. The same year, Brooks would see more success with the release of Young Frankenstein, as it became the 3rd highest grossing film of 1974. By 1980, Siskel and Ebert had referred to Mel Brooks and Woody Allen as the 2 most successful comedy directors in the world today. In 2009, Brooks was one of 5 recipients awarded Kennedy Center honors for performing arts in Washington, D.C. He was inducted into the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2010, and AFI presented Brooks with the highest tribute, the AFI Lifetime Achievement Award, in 2013. Number 6, Billy Crystal. The son of a famous music promoter in New York City, Billy Crystal was a very upbeat and likable kid with unique talent for making people laugh. Tragedy would strike him at an early age as his father died of a heart attack in 1963. A year after his father's death, Crystal began performing stand-up comedy while still in high school at age 16. Billy would put his comedy career on hold after high school to pursue a baseball career in college, but it was short-lived as the school canceled the program once he arrived on campus. Once back in New York, Crystal and 2 friends started the comedy trio Three's Company, opening up for legendary performers such as Barry Manilow. He later became a solo act and performed regularly at the Improv and Catch a Rising Star. In 1976, he landed his breakout role of Jody Dallas on the controversial ABC sitcom Soap. After Soap ended in 1981, Crystal's stand-up routine was attracting larger audiences as his celebrity status continued to grow. He would join the cast of Saturday Night Live in 1984 and began starring in box office films such as Running Scared and Throw Mama from the Train. The early 1990s would see Billy Crystal movie star status reach its peak as he starred in comedy classics When Harry Met Sally and City Slickers. In the following years, Crystal would go on to act and direct in several films, as well as host the Oscars on 7 different occasions. Number 5, Lily Tomlin. Thanks to remarkable performances in multiple award-winning dramas, few remember that Lily Tomlin was once arguably the funniest woman on the planet. Tomlin began her stand-up career in her hometown of Detroit, Michigan, and later moved to New York City in the early 1960s. In 1970, Lily joined the cast of NBC's ROWAN and Martin's Laugh-In, where she became an instant favorite as she introduced us to many memorable characters, including Ernestine the rude telemarketer and Edith Ann the precious 5-year-old. She would release 3 comedy albums throughout the 1970s, highlighted by her debut album, This Is a Recording, which would go on to win a Grammy Award for Best Recorded Album in 1972. Tomlin would earn an Academy Award nomination in her feature film debut portraying an unhappy married gospel singer in the 1975 drama Nashville. In 1977, she was the first woman to appear solo in a Broadway show, and that same month, she made the cover of Time magazine with the headline, America's New Queen of Comedy. Not considered a conventional leading lady, Lily Tomlin used her Midwestern charm and comedic talents to capture the hearts and funny bones of millions in comedy cult classics such as 9 to 5 with Dolly Parton and Jane Fonda, All of Me with Steve Martin, and Big Business with Bette Midler. In addition to her film and stage work, Tomlin continues to act on television. She currently stars opposite Jane Fonda in the Netflix comedy series Grace and Frankie. Number 4, Woody Allen. Any moment that you've ever had in the name of love, this man has made some pretty good jokes about it. Arguably the greatest comedic director of all time, Woody Allen's career in entertainment spans over 6 decades, highlighted by multiple Academy Award-winning films. Prior to directing, Allen was a young comedic prodigy as he enjoyed a legendary career in comedy writing and stand-up comedy. Allen began comedic writing as a teenager, earning almost $200 a week writing jokes for the local newspaper. While still in his early 20s, he began performing stand-up comedy at clubs in New York City, which led to guest appearances on late-night television. He released 3 comedy albums during the mid-late 1960s, earning a Grammy Award nomination for his 1964 comedy album entitled Simply Woody Allen. After performing on stage for a few years, Allen would make his directorial debut in 1966 with the Japanese spy movie What's Up, Tiger Lily, followed by Take the Money and Run in 1969. His career breakthrough would come in 1977 with his romantic comedy Annie Hall. Ranked by critics as the greatest romantic comedy of all time, Allen's film went on to win 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Screenplay. Over the next 2 decades, Allen would continue to direct iconic films such as Hannah and Her Sisters and the 2011's Midnight in Paris. Even with his success in film, comedy historians greatly remember Allen's contribution to stand-up comedy, as Comedy Central named Woody Allen 4th on the list of 100 greatest stand-up comedians of all time in 2004. Number 3, Jim Carrey. A zany comedian from the great up north, Jim Carrey took the world by storm throughout the 1990s, establishing himself as the hilarious leading man in Tinseltown with a series of over-the-top box office performances. He made his professional stand-up comedy debut at age 15, and by the time he was 18, Carrey was able to make a comfortable living as a comedian. Stripes on the local comedy scene, he made a break for Los Angeles, where veteran comic Rodney Dangerfield gave him a regular spot at the Comedy Store. While performing regularly at the Comedy Store, Carrey would strike up a friendship with fellow comedian Damon Wayans. Impressed by Jim's antics, Damon would help Carrey land a spot on his brother Keenen Ivory Wayans' new sketch comedy show In Living Color in 1990. Thanks to the popularity of the show, Carrey would land his first major role once the show was canceled after 4 seasons. He scored an immediate success in 1994 with Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, grossing $72 million in the US and Canada. That same year, he continued his box office success with The Mask and Dumb and Dumber, each grossing over $250 million at the box office. In the mid-1990s, Jim would become the first actor to receive $20 million of film and delivered more popular films with Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, The Cable Guy, Liar Liar, and Batman Forever. At the height of his comedy prime, Carrey surprised fans by taking more dramatic roles, such as 1998's The Truman Show, for which he won a Golden Globe Award for Best Actor, and the Andy Kaufman biopic Man on the Moon, where he earned another Golden Globe nomination in 1999. The next 2 decades would see Jim continue to successfully cross over from comedy to drama, highlighted by 2004's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and 2014's Dumb and Dumber 2. Following a 3-year break, Carrey returned in early 2019 to play the evil Dr. Robotnik in the video game film. Number 2, Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx has emerged as one of the most talented entertainers of his generation. Known for his charismatic personality and impersonations, Foxx was part of a legendary cast on In Living Color that included Jim Carrey, Jennifer Lopez, and Damon Wayans. Foxx eventually branched out into film and music, becoming both a leading actor and R&B star. Born Eric Bishop, Foxx first told jokes at an open mic in 1989 after accepting a dare from his college girlfriend. To help earn more stage time, he would change his name to Jamie Foxx. In 1991, he won the Bay Area Black Comedy Competition, which led to his casting on In Living Color. Foxx produced his first HBO comedy special in 1993 entitled Straight from the Foxhole. He would quickly land his own successful comedy sitcom on the WB with The Jamie Foxx Show from 1996 to 2001. Hollywood began to take notice as he landed major roles in films such as Booty Call, Any Given Sunday, and Ali. Foxx would make light of his journey through Hollywood in his final HBO comedy special, I Might Need Security, in 2002. Portraying the legendary Ray Charles, Foxx would win the Oscar for Best Actor in 2004's biopic Ray. Musically, Jamie would begin working with Kanye West, and the two immediately produced 2 #1 hits with Slow Jam and Gold Digger. Eventually, he would win a Grammy Award for his #1 hit Blame It and receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2007. He's currently set to star in the new Netflix TV series entitled Dad, Stop Embarrassing Me, and is the star of the new Disney animated film Soul. Number 1, Larry David. He literally took his jokes about nothing and made them into one of the biggest somethings in pop culture history. Larry David is highly regarded as one of the greatest comedy TV writers of all time, as he is creator of 2 of the most successful comedy sitcoms in Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm. Labeled as a comics comic, David has received a total of 27 Primetime Emmy Award nominations, as well as 3 Golden Globe Award nominations. Larry's greatest creation would begin in 1974 as he traveled around New York City performing as a stand-up comedian. Larry would meet fellow comedian Jerry Seinfeld at a friend's birthday party in 1976, and the two would begin collaborating on stand-up comedy material ever since. David was hired to write and perform for the short-lived comedy variety show Fridays from 1980 to 1982. In 1989, he would receive a phone call from Seinfeld with the offer to work on a TV pilot that Jerry was developing for NBC. Together, the duo developed a pilot that would go on to become the most influential sitcom in television history. David wrote and produced Seinfeld until 1996, when he left the show to pursue other opportunities. In 1999, David proved his comedic genius once again with the semi-scripted HBO comedy series Curb Your Enthusiasm. The show featured David playing himself as a nervous stand-up comic returning to entertainment after a long absence from the stage. Partially improv, the show won a Golden Globe Award for Best Comedy Series in 2003. Larry David would end the HBO show in 2011, but due to popular demand, the series would return for a 9th season in 2017, followed by a 10th season in 2020. With two iconic shows in heavy rotation, most of David's wealth originates from syndication deals for Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm, netting $3.1 billion in total rerun fees as of 2013. So do you agree with our video? Do you have any opinions on any of the actors and directors that got their start in stand-up comedy? Well, if you do, leave a comment below at the bottom and tell us your likes, dislikes, and fascinating facts you learned from watching this video. Also, remember to subscribe to We Own the Laughs as we prepare to bring you new videos weekly and keep you up to date on comedy news. I'm your host, Comic Tyson Paul, and I just want to remind you to keep laughing at life because it's actually pretty funny. Thank you for watching this video.